Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming.
Charlie Landing grew up in Sussex, is the founder of Best Agent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same.
So Charlie, what would be your advice for people interested in buying new builds right now?
Don't overpay. Do buy, but don't overpay. That's why I say disregard the guff. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
They may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. You cannot be in a position to make offers and have the offers accepted if you're not viewing. So be out there viewing. Pay attention to the back of the class if you've not been watching my videos. I did one just a couple of days ago. Disregard the guff, guys. Get the hair off the mug. Oh, that's hot. Evening, everybody. Happy Monday evening. Hope you had a good weekend. Tonight, I'm here for your moving questions. So any live questions about buying or selling or both or renting or landlording or the housing market or anything to do with the housing market or how you think it's going to be affected, I'm here to take any of your questions in the live chat. If you're watching this on X, you can still, there's a live chat. Weirdly, I get almost all the comments come from YouTube in the live chat. Hi, Jacek, already on YouTube there. If you're watching on X, please say hi so I can prove to other people that it is working and get more people asking questions from X because I've got lots of new followers there. If you're listening on audio podcast, no, delete. If you are a new subscriber, welcome. There have been lots of new subscribers on all the platforms since my last video. Welcome. And if you don't have time to watch me rambling for the best part of an hour, probably, then you can listen to me ramble instead on the Moving Home with Charlie podcast you can get from Apple or Spotify or anywhere else like that. And if you're listening to this on podcast, links to all the things I'm talking about in every podcast are always in the show notes with links to it. And we've got Gugu Gill on X. Good evening. Hi there, Gugu. That's a new name. Welcome to the show. Jacek D, Patricia, Spanish Chicken says, nice shirt, dude. Well, thank you. And that's a good YouTube handle that I haven't seen before. Birthday present from my other half. Marcin, Alex. Right, let's get into it. Let's get into it now. In this evening's news, I'm happy to report that the official average house price in the UK is £268,000. It is also £271,000. It is also officially £378,000, and officially it's £296,000. These are all the official average UK house price. Not to be questioned. Don't ask questions. Just accept it. Every week we'll put out national average house prices, and we will tell you that it is the average UK house price. And we won't talk about the fact that last week's the average house price was completely different. In fact, £110,000 different between the highest and the lowest on the screen there. No, don't question it. Just be a good little buyer and a good little overpayer. Don't question it and just go and pay what you're told to pay for your new build house and just believe what everyone tells you without question. These are all the official average UK house price. Okay, got that? Good, excellent. We haven't got to talk about that anymore then. You all know what to do. You just believe whatever you're told every time the media says house prices. That was a completely unrehearsed little rant. But I think several years of doing this has made me go slightly barking mad. Especially for a new follower, you must think I am barking mad. The point I'm making is none of the UK house price indices can be taken seriously, except of course my one, my Best Agent one. Yeah, Best Agent could definitely take that one seriously. Actually, there's a reason you can take that one more seriously, and it's because it's transparent. And I will show you that in a minute, and I will back that up because that was designed and spec'd myself, and I will back it up. I'm not saying it's any more useful than the others. We're just transparent about how it's calculated, and it is the whole of the current housing market, which none of these are, right? None of these are the whole market. They're all weirdly different ones. I do want to give credit where credit's due, because Zoopla is definitely, and by the way, Zoopla's is the lowest one there, 268,000. I haven't even bothered with the ONS's one because they just lie. Bare-faced lying with their numbers 1 month to the next, and their shameless comparison of a unrevised figure from this month compared with last year's revised down figure, creating an artificially high year-on-year house price growth figure, which is why the ONS's is so much higher than all of the others that are all saying between 1 and 2. Rightmove is 0.8%, and the others are like 1.5% to 2.1%, 2.5% at Halifax today. But I mean, there's just no credibility to any of them. Today, Halifax put theirs out. Let's just do this. Come on, let's just do this. So this is the most egregious thing here, that they cite this number as though it is the average house price. And of course, Joe Public looks like and goes, oh, well, I've got no reason to doubt that. And Halifax is the largest group of mortgage lenders. They must know what they're talking about, right? They must know what they're talking about. The monthly change in price compared to the month before of their unverified index price is 0% change, although prices are down minus 0.3% since 3 months ago. And year on year, their average is up 2.5%. But none, like I said, this is of absolutely no use to you with your individual move, because depending on which of the 4 countries of the UK you are in, depending on whether you are top or the bottom of the market, depending on whether are freehold or leasehold, depending whether you are terraced or semi-detached or detached or a flat or a masonette, and all of these things change everything. And if you actually want to know what's happening with a bit of a lag on in-house prices near your place, Otter Property is the best one to view. But that's that. I did have the Nationwide haven't one, because this is only a few weeks ago. Just to point out, right, they're both lenders. So that's Halifax saying June house prices at 296,000 with a monthly change of 0. But Nationwide goes, no. Annual house prices did come down in June. The annual house price is 2.1%, not 2.5% Halifax. And the average price is 271,000, not 296,000. So that's £25,000 less than Halifax, according to Nationwide. And the brain dead house price index zombies who just go, but it's official, Charlie. Halifax said it's official, and Nationwide won't ever answer when I go, well, why are they 25% different? Sorry, 25 grand different. I mean, that's like almost 10% difference. Oh, well, we don't know. We don't know how to question it. We just believe what they say. We don't question it. And none of the journalists question it. And these guys, what they do if you want to go and look into the granularity of how they're actually calculated, you can go and look at the Halifax. You can drill down into the small print. You can click on the links that take to the US seasonally adjusted, hedonically regressed mix adjustment methodology, which all sounds very, very, very like, you look at that and go, oh, I've already fallen asleep thinking about it. But what they don't do is actually reveal their methodology. And they also have the get out of jail free card where they say, oh, by the way, we can change how we calculate this whenever we want. We can just change it whenever we want. I haven't got to tell you about it. I haven't got to explain it. But we're going to change it. And we're still going to tell you it's official. All of them do that. Not one of them is transparent. You might say, but hang on, Charlie, the ONS, isn't that made up of land registry house prices? Well, it's made up, each month when they put it out, it's made up of a small number of land registry prices, but they don't tell us how they calculate it. They give us this very, very fancy mathematical equation, but they don't tell us what the variables are, so it cannot be checked or verified. And then out of the blue, the ONS will go, oh, by the way, we just lowered the average house price in the UK by £21,000 for the last 50 years. No, don't worry about it. We had to say that because otherwise people, but no, just carry on believing without question the ONS. To my great delight, I've had a journalist contact me saying, we've been looking into the credibility of the Rightmove House Price Index and the ONS House Price Index and how misleading they are. We'd love your comments on it. Yes, maybe someone's going to actually go to the public in a newspaper. Maybe this isn't what it seems. Anyway, there you are. Just a reminder, and especially for all those of you who are new here, just basically ignore this in terms of your own move. It shouldn't change your decision to move or not. And I'm going to start with two questions that came in. One came in on X and one came. Okay, so here we go. Let's start with this one. So a new follower on YouTube, Tiger Rider 2. Hi there. Says, hi, Charlie. I stumbled across your channel recently and I love it. Well done. Thank you very much. You mentioned several times about not overpaying for new builds. Not overpaying for anything, but especially not new builds. But how does one know if you're overpaying? Because there's nothing to compare it to. I'm from the government, and I'm telling you that there's lots of data. You're just not doing your research enough. There's lots and lots of data. You're just not doing your research. You don't understand. There's lots to compare it to. There's the ONS. There's Land Registry. There's Halifax nationwide. Just pay what you're told. Just pay what you're told. Okay. When the new build guide says that's the price, just pay it without question. You're quite right. There isn't anything to compare it to. Do you know why? Especially on new builds. Do you know why? Because new builders, for some reason, get away without having to publish or register their actual sold prices at the Land Registry for like 2 years. So we have no way of knowing what they're actually selling for now for 2 years. And so this is a very, very good question. But my answer to this question is the same as my answer to anyone saying, but hang on, how do we know what overpaying is? And I know that this might not be helpful in terms of you calculating the actual amount that you should offer, but this is because it's personal and unique for everybody. Houses don't have a value generically, intrinsically. They have a value to somebody. And the value to each person is slightly different. And the actual price that a transaction goes through is based as much on the combination of the seller's circumstances and the buyer's circumstances as it is on the actual property, right? And not overpaying, and I know I've answered this question lots of times, but it bears repeating. Not overpaying means not paying more than you are comfortable to pay to secure that home for you and your family to move into and live in for a nice long time. What that amount is depends on all of your personal circumstances. For example, are you very financially resilient? Is the number that you're paying stretching you or not? Do you plan to move in the next few years or not? Because if you're buying a new build and you do plan to move in the next few years, don't forget that the price is going to drop like a car driving out of a showroom. It just drops like that. You couldn't sell that property for the same price the next day, and probably not for the next few years. So you've got to factor that in, because if you do pay top whack for a new build and then want to move, like sell 2 or 3 years later for unforeseen reasons, you will not get what you paid back for it. And if you borrowed 95%, which you can, as a buyer, borrow 95% on a new build house, not on a new build flat, but on a new build house, I think. Somebody will correct me on that. And the price drops by a few percent, you're not going to be able to get your money back. You're not going to be able to get enough back to settle the mortgage, and you'll suddenly find yourself unable to move. Like, what? Why can't we move? So you've got to factor that in. What are your future plans? What are your future plans if they don't go to plan? So not overpaying means two things: not overextending yourself personally, financially, and number two, not snookering yourself when you need to move next time and you can't. That's what I mean by not overpaying. If you are Roman Abramovich and you pay 10% over the asking price for a new build because you want it for one of your harem, That's probably something I shouldn't have said. You're not overpaying because you're paying cash and you don't care. And if you sell it, you won't even notice the loss that you make on it. So you're not overpaying because it's worth that much to you if you're Roman Abramovich. But if you are a young individual or a young couple who've worked your asses off to save your deposit, your 5% deposit, and you've just managed to scrape together the finances and got a mortgage over, and you've got no financial resilience, then you have overpaid. You know what I mean? And if that means, but hang on, someone else paid more than they got it, well, that's how it goes. There is no such thing as an assigned value for a house. AI will never be able to value houses because it can't smell inside a house. It can't see your neighbours. It can't see out of your window. And it doesn't know what the state of your roof is. So these automated valuations are absolutely useless. They're nothing more than data traps to get you to hand your data over. So, Tiger Rider, I'm sorry if that's not helpful, but you've got to talk to your mortgage broker, work out what your maximum, because you should offer your maximum comfortable price to maximize your chances of securing the home and not losing it to someone else. So it's a balancing act. This is the point. It's a balancing act. So that's that question. Do we have any questions coming in the live chat? Julian Westcott, just get on with it, man. Life is short, probably shorter than your intro. I'm afraid you've come to the wrong channel if you want quick and short. It's going to be slow and long here. I did see Robert Pest. Okay, yeah, I'm going to come. I'm just looking for. God, there's some unreasonable people out here. John Locke. Charlie is Illuminati. Damn it, I've been rumbled. Oh no, I'm going to get thrown out. They'll be coming around here in white coats. If you don't see me again, it's because this guy, he's rumbled me, saw right through me. My ex was called Charlie, and for that reason alone, I don't trust this guy. Oh, that's a very rational approach to take. Okay, I've got one other question to answer, which I had beforehand. And then I'm going to come to these. Kayala, hello, thank you very much. You're welcome for all the content. Mr. Ree says, yeah, but us old gits can afford all the space we like and you can't. I've got lots of boomers following me. Hi, Vince. Nice to see you. That's a good question. I'll get to that. Right. Let me deal with the other question I had waiting. This is from a seller. Hi, Charlie. I found your content really useful and informative. Thank you very much. That is actually the point. Forgive the direct approach, no problem. But should a vendor feel bullied by their agents? For the past few weeks, our agent has been quite forceful, telling us to drop our asking price. We've been on since March at their valuation and had 4 viewings. 2 of those were poorly handled by the agent. Now they are insisting we drop 10K. I'm grateful for your insight. Right. This is really important. Now, I'm going to make a couple of assumptions based on the information I've got here. If you've gone on at a price that the agent said it was worth and you believed them, and now they're telling you to drop the price, then you should leave that agent. You should go, you don't deserve my business. I went with you because I trusted you. You said it was worth this much, and you've produced sod all viewings in March, April, May, June, for 4 or 5 months. Off you go, do one. You should be out of contract by now. You should leave. And if you're not out of contract by now, you should leave based on failure to deliver, right? So your house is without a doubt overpriced. It may also have problems with its presentation. I don't know. You didn't send me a link to it. Any sellers that want me to comment on your situation, always send me a link to your property. It gives me a lot more context, helps me answer it. And if they've been forceful telling us to drop your asking price, well, first of all, that is absolutely standard behavior by all estate agents who overvalue to win business. They know they're going to be doing this to you. And they will be forceful because they practice it every day, every week. They're calling vendors saying, no, you've got to drop your price, you've got to drop your price, you've got to drop your price. Now, on the one hand, they're correct. You're not going to sell if you don't drop your price, right? On the other hand, it's shockingly cheeky of them to be saying this when they advised you to go on at that price, if that's what's happened. Now, if you are a seller who decided on the price yourself and insisted on going, said, I'll only go with you, Mr. Agent, if you go on at this price, and now they're being forceful telling you to cut the price, that's not on the agent, that is on you. As long as they advised at the time, say, look, that's not the price we'd go on, that's too high. They shouldn't have taken your business if you did that. But if it's you that's been over optimistic on price, then it's not the bad on the agent. And the agent's doing a good job by telling you to drop the price. But if it was the agent that advised you to go on at that price, made you sign a contract and then failed to sell it, they should jog on and do one, and you should go to a different agent. So is it bullying you? I mean, it sounds like in this particular case, it probably is bullying you because they abused your trust in getting you to come on at a price that you obviously were encouraged about. I would say that 10K is probably not enough of a drop, right? I would say that 10K is going to be chasing the market down. It's going to be a small drop and not enough. So I hope that helps. Right, next question. Let's take some questions from the live chat. Come on, we've got 422 of you watching this, at least. In fact, you must have more questions than this. They're not very questions. You need to got some random questions, but they're not really. Okay, cool. Some good stuff to bring up here. Oh my God, that's fantastic. Mustafa Hulusi, I hope I've pronounced that right. Just sold my 4-bed for 543,000. All sellers watching, please take note of this next thing. Used your advice and pitched it at 500,000. I'm just trying to contain myself and not get over exuberant here. 90% of sellers are frightened that if they lower their asking price, they might not get as much money for it at the end. Whereas actually what happens is they're sitting there getting no viewings and have no chance of selling it at any price. When you make your property look like it's good value, people come through the door. When people come through the door and more than one of them likes your home, they will start bidding against each other. When they do that, this comment right here is proof that the asking price goes out the window. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what your asking price is. Its only job is to get people in the door. And Mustafa has listened to my advice, pitched it at a price that's clearly got people through the door, and ended up with, I'm assuming, a bidding scenario, and found the true market value for his home. And you only get that if you get concurrent viewings, people viewing and offering at the same time. You don't get it if you get one viewing this month, one viewing next month, you don't get a market. That's not a market for your home. You need multiple viewings in the same week. That is the only way. I cannot say this enough. There is no other way to be certain you've got the maximum price for your house than getting concurrent multiple viewings and multiple bids. And the only way to do that is to market your property at an attractive price. Not necessarily too low, but at an attractive price. So Mustafa, well done. You pitched it right. And look at what you've done. That's fantastic news. Okay, here's another good comment to make. Victoria Hamilton says, listening while looking at properties online. Only been a year. No, honestly, I'm fine. Fantastic. Why? Okay. Spanish Chicken says, lowball the market to get interest is the only way. Correct. It is the only way. Quite a few questions here. I will start to go through them now. I'm just flagging the ones I want to ask. Some great questions. Yeah. Okay. Right. Let me start going through your questions. Here we go. Liam says, have you listened to Robert Peston's podcast, The Rest is Money, about housing? He interviews Tom Tugendhat today, and Tom Tugendhat proposes capital gains tax on house sales. I've only listened to a snippet of it. I don't know the details, and I could be wrong, but I think it sounds like an absolutely disastrously, terribly bad idea. Stamp duty is already killing housing transactions. Capital gains tax on your only residence will make it worse. Terrible idea. Next up, Christopher Smith on X says, thank you. You've helped me throughout this awful process. Wonderful. Love to hear that. I went ahead with a structural engineer and it came back with the house is fine, but the garage might need some work, around £2,500, which is better than I was expecting after the damning level 2 survey. I now just have to wait for the surveyor to value the house with the detached garage taken into account. Cool. Excellent. Good luck. Hope you get there. And for anyone who thinks it's easy to sell a house, just remember, every single one has a story like this. And that's when you need a good agent on board to help you. This is a great question. Vince Samuel says, do you have any insight into the diminution? That's an Aussie word, isn't it? Of that's where Australia's taken an English word and bastardized it. Into the reduction in value for disclosing horrible neighbours. It's a nightmare scenario. Nobody wants to live where you've got horrible neighbours. If there have been run-ins that have been reported to the local authorities, whether it's the council or the police, with the neighbours, that is something that I think I'm right in saying is required to be disclosed on your property sale forms because there's public record of it. And it's it's not going to help, is it? It's not going to help. It's going to hurt your value, unless you end up with someone who just doesn't care about the neighbours, just doesn't care because then maybe they're going to be even worse than your neighbours are. I don't have any insight, Vince. I just know that nightmare neighbours are a nightmare for everyone. And if anyone has got nightmare neighbours, the very worst thing you can do is escalate it with any kind of revenge. You must resist the temptation, no matter how strong, to react to provocation, to do any revenge things, this, that, and the other. You just de-escalate it, no matter how bad they're being, because all you want is to live in peace. And if you escalate it, you're doing the opposite of that. If they're doing something that is unacceptable, the best way to handle it is to report it to the council or to the police as appropriate, because nobody wants that on their record. And if it's a first time, what I recommend you do is say to the neighbour or WhatsApp them, whatever, just say, I don't want to fall out with you. I'd like to be able to live next to you in peace. Please, could you stop doing this? Otherwise, you're leaving no choice but to report it to the council and or the police, depending on what they're doing. If they don't react to that warning, only one warning, right? If they don't react to that and they continue doing it, then without further delay, make an official report to the police or the council as appropriate, right? That, in my experience, is a pretty effective tactic in most cases and will solve most cases. And whenever possible, try to de-escalate it and try, because if it's in your own interest, especially if you're going to be selling your house, try to patch things up. I once had a disastrously bad neighbour, so bad I did have to call the police on multiple occasions. And the only thing that made it bearable was me, when he was standing nose to nose with me, screaming in my face. I just quietly said to him, no matter what you do and no matter what you say, I'm not going to fall out with you. I don't want to fall out with my neighbour. And I just de-escalated it. That's not what I wanted to do. Obviously, I wanted to do all kinds of things, but they would have only made a bad situation worse. Anyway, sorry, Vince, that's a much longer question than you asked for. Much longer answer, I mean. Marchin says, do you know any data covering number of houses owned by equity funds? How many of them are as rich in the UK? I don't have any data on that, I'm afraid. I think you'd have to start looking at company's house, that sort of thing. I don't have any data on that. I don't know. Shaz Gently says, just got an offer accepted, 750,000 down from 825 using your technique. It does, guys. I do actually know my stuff, and I am neutral here. I just want to help anyone that's moving house, buying or selling or both. I want to help you. So all the advice I offer is completely free, and it works. And I never understand the mentality of someone who doesn't have the experience I've got, who listens to my advice and goes, nah, I just know what you're talking about. I do. I'm going to do this, and it doesn't work out. I never understand that. I think it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Next question. Ziamantwi says, my friend can't understand why, as a buyer, you're not trying to save money off your max comfy price. Why start at your max? Now, this is a very, very good question. And this is a question I've answered before, and it bears repeating again. So in my first time buyer offer email template, which I think is linked to the description below, and if it isn't, then here it is in the live chat for you right now. Sorry, guys. I just want to make sure that new followers get it. There it is in the live chat right now. In that, it says, it's your first and final offer. And everyone thinks, well, hang on, if you start at your max, you might be leaving money on the table. That is true. It is possible that you're leaving some money on the table. And why is that acceptable if it is the maximum comfortable price? If it's not, we're talking about no higher than your maximum comfortable price, no higher than the price above which you would walk away. You might be leaving money on the table. But if you don't offer your maximum comfortable price, as one of my best mates didn't, having asked me for advice and then ignored it, you risk losing it to someone else who pays the same as your maximum comfortable price. And the way the mindset goes is, and this is one of my friends, he said to me, he said, well, I worked out the value. I did my research and I worked out that the value was this. And so I offered my calculation of the value. And then someone else paid more than me, and I would have paid that much, and they got it, and I didn't. And what you'll find is that not getting the house that you would have loved to have got at a price you were willing to pay is much worse than leaving a bit of money on the table that you can afford. That's why I always say it's about the move, not the money. If you find a home you love, this advice does not work if you're a buy-to-let investor, a landlord, or a property investor, or a developer. No, that is different. Then you're bargaining hard left, right, and centre, making 20 offers for everyone that gets accepted. But if you're buying a home, which is hard enough as it is already, what you don't want to do is end up with very sore shins from kicking yourself, from trying to save 5 or 10 grand, and then losing out on the house that you so wanted, that you would have got had you offered your maximum comfortable price the first time. So I know it's a bit counterintuitive, but we could have got it for less. You could, but then you're increasing maybe that's right. But you've got to work out whether, again, this affects whether you're the only bidder or whether there are lots of bidders. That shouldn't affect your maximum comfortable price, by the way. But when there are lots of bidders, what you know is that is the market for that home, and that there is a market for that home. And therefore, if you bid up to the same level as everyone else, you're not overpaying, because you could probably get as long as it's not above your maximum comfortable price, you're not overpaying. But you probably could get the same price for the house the next day if you wanted to sell it. Whereas if you're the only bidder, you might be asking yourself, what would I get for it if I put it back on the market the next day? And that might inform your maximum comfortable offer on a property where you're the only bidder. So does that answer your question, Ziamant tweet? I hope it does. Kayala on X says, question, apologies for the incoming thesis. What is your opinion on easement agreements with regard to how they affect the property price? We are in the process of buying an end of terrace property that we love for a price that we can comfortably afford. However, we need to allow access for the neighbour to park their car on their land, which is only accessible using our driveway. While we love the house, we're worried we didn't take the easement agreement into account when making our offer. And I'm assuming you're going on to say that might have an impact on its value in the future sale. That's a really good question. And what you've got to do is you've got to ask yourself, which would be the worst of the two mistakes? Because your choice is, I can't tell, have you actually bought, we're in the process of buying, okay, so I haven't bought it yet, haven't exchanged yet. If you end up overpaying for the house, sorry, not overpaying, if you end up paying the price that you've currently agreed and getting the house and living there happily ever after, and then discovering when you come to sell it later that that's a problem for the incoming buyers, is that a mistake you can live with? Or trying to renegotiate because of this easement agreement and then ending up losing the sale on the house that you love? Which would be the worst of the two mistakes? I think I know the answer to that one based on what you've said. It sounds like you don't want to lose this house. And I think if the current neighbours are decent, reasonable people, those situations can work very well for decades. But if your neighbour sells up to someone else and they start abusing it, or they're people you don't, it's one of those situations. It's a judgment call. You've got to roll the dice with it. But that when I'm faced with a dilemma like that, I'm like, which would be the worst mistake? Buying it and then regretting when we come to sell because of the impact on the price, or missing out on the house we love by trying to renegotiate it now? I'm afraid that's the best I can offer you there. Reviewer asks, when's the big announcement for Best Agent? You got Phil Spencer on board, haven't you? No, I do not have Phil Spencer on board, and I do not want Phil Spencer on board. I wouldn't ask Phil Spencer to be on board. I would ask Kirsty. I haven't, but I would ask Kirsty, and I would welcome Kirsty's on board, because as far as I'm aware, Kirsty has not abused her audience's trust to make money, and Phil Spencer has. And that bothers me, right? Phil Spencer has used his public profile to do paid promotion for brands without disclosing that's what he was doing, and talking up his sponsors, pretending it's impartial advice. That is something I wouldn't want anything to do with in my business. There we go. I'm not saying he's done anything illegal. I'm not saying that at all. But for me, talking to your audience who trust you in a way that sounds like you're giving them advice, but actually you've been paid to give it to them, doesn't work for me. Swizzle says, that's a great name, Swizzle. Swizzle on YouTube says, we're about to put an offer and the estate agent is asking for a deposit amount. Do we have to disclose this, or is the mortgage in principle okay? Right. 2 points to this, right? First of all, if you've used my offer email template, you will see that it does say include proof of your deposit funds. Now, if you don't want to give them copies of your bank statements, the way to get around that is to make sure you have a conveyancer appointed, which no buyers ever do, despite my advice. Buyers just don't seem to do this. Some do. That's not fair. Some of you do. I know some of you do, but most of you don't. And you get the conveyancer to approve your source of funds so that when you make your offer says, and you can attach an email from your conveyancer confirming they have approved the source of your deposit funds and the amount. So that you don't have to disclose your bank account balance and that kind of stuff, but your email from a conveyancer is confirming that they've confirmed availability and approved the source of those funds massively improves your chances of having your offer accepted anyway. Now, you are not legally required to disclose this to the agent at this point, but it will count against you if you're offering against other people, because what agents must do to protect both the seller and themselves is make sure that you're actually in a position to proceed. And if there are multiple offers on the property that you're offering on, they're looking to see, let's just say you've got 3 people, you're one of 3 people offering, and you're all offering the same amount, and the other 2 people have disclosed the deposit amount and their mortgage and principal, and you don't, you're going to lose out on the property in that scenario. Do you see? So with certain estate agents, you are quite right to be reluctant to divulge your finances if you think they could use that against you. There are certain kinds who tend to be larger corporates that will do that and use that against you. But with other agents, smaller agents, I wouldn't worry about it. And a screenshot showing you've got enough funds should be enough. But just give them something. All they want to know is that you're not, because honestly, believe it or not, they do get people. I'll give you an example, right, of a first-time buyer who goes, yeah, we can afford the deposit. We've got 50 grand deposit. And actually what they've done is, well, we've got 25 grand, but in the 6 months it takes for the deal to go through, hopefully we'll have the rest of the balance by the time that happens. That happens. There are buyers that do that. And it's an agent's job to protect sellers. Again, all of those muppets, you think, oh, it's easy to sell a house, you just put on Rightmove, you got a buyer, and off you go. No, this is part of the nightmare that as a seller you want to avoid, and good agents will help you avoid. They will qualify buyers properly. So the mortgage in principle is good. And the other thing you could do, if you've got a mortgage principal from a broker and the broker has seen your proof and source of funds, then you could get an email from your broker confirming they have verified you do have those funds. Okay, so I hope that helps that answer. Liam again, hello Liam, asks, is the main reason for chains breaking properties being overvalued? Nope, that's not the main reason. It is a reason, definitely, and chains do break when a mortgage lender's valuer comes round to value the property, goes, no, that's much too much money. We're not approving that loan on that property at that amount. That can cause a chain to break. But the number one cause is first-time buyers changing their mind. And this is something that never gets talked about in the press, but for sellers and for agents, first-time buyers changing their mind after they've had their offer accepted is one of the biggest causes of deal fall-throughs, and it's massively frustrating. And it's something good, and it's why, as a first-time buyer, it makes sense to be very well prepared, because it really shows those agents, oh, right, these guys are committed, they're serious. Wow. Ritori91 says, my seller's estate agent refused my conveyancers and brokers' communications regarding source of funds. They would only take bank statements, which was very stressful. Right. That, I'm pretty sure that is a breach of the rules. They are not entitled to refuse a conveyancer and a broker confirming your source of funds. I don't think. I haven't verified this, and I'd need to verify it. But I'm pretty certain you should check with your conveyancer if that's actually legal, because I don't think it is. Because as Patricia goes on to say, they wanted to see that you have more money so you could pay more. Dodgy estate agent. Quite right. Quite right. Do we have more questions? How are we doing for time? We have to wrap it up quite soon. Got an appointment at 8 o'clock. Oh, wow. Jamie on X says, same issues as the last question, read driveways. Next door are selling. We have off-street parking next door, Oh, we have off-street parking. Next, commas would help here. Punctuation. We have off-street parking. Next door do not. And we, out of kindness, let them sub-drive onto their area to the front of their house. There's nothing written down. For a viewing, the estate agent told the viewers that they can use our drive to access the parking at the front, purely for the viewing. And the viewing commenced. After the viewers had left, I raised the issue with the estate agent and got a bit of lame response. Any advice? You need to put in writing to the agent what you've just said here, right? That there is no right of way. The agent needs to know that, because that could derail a sale later on. If they're a good agent, they'll want to know that anyway. And it's also material information they need to include and disclose to any buyer. Martin Buss says, thought you might be interested to know, working with AI to calculate real household inflation from January 2019 to January 2025. So if you apply this to your house price, real world prices were pretty much at your negative 30% house price drop you predicted. Thank you. Expected, not predicted. Still sliding. Pi May 26 says, on average, how much of your net pay should go to paying off a mortgage? That I am not a mortgage broker. I do work with mortgage brokers, very good ones. But that is a question for a mortgage broker. But I think, generally speaking, typically people go about 1/3 of your after-tax income. But again, even that depends on how many other debts you've got, what your actual disposable income is. So I think it needs to be a percentage of your disposable income. Oh, wicked. Stephen Simmons says, hi, Charlie. Added my recent house sale to the best agent the other day. You mean to the best agent house price index, don't you? Which you reminded me, I didn't show everyone what I wanted to show you, which is these house prices. Very quickly. So just going back to what I was talking about at the very beginning of the video about all the different values, let me put that back up on the screen. So these, I think from memory, that's Zoopla, Nationwide, Rightmove, and Halifax. And that's Zoopla's, they think that's actual transaction prices average. That's Nationwide's own average of their lending transactions they've lent on. That's asking prices only. I mean, how ridiculous is that, right? But this is relevant because best agents one are also asking prices only. So that, in comparison with that, is quite useful. And that's Halifax, who are saying, again, that's the actual transaction price of the properties they're lending money on. But if you look at the best agent average here, first of all, median, because of the distribution of house prices from the very bottom to the very top, the actual mathematical average, the mean, is hopelessly distorted, right? Look at that, hopelessly distorted. It's that's £112,000 higher on the unsold properties, and it's £60,000 higher on the sold properties, the average asking prices, okay? Top line here is sale agreed stuff. Second line is unsold stuff. This is the most useful here, right? There's a £40,000 difference between the median asking price of unsold properties and the median asking price of properties showing as sold. But this doesn't tell us what they actually sold for. But it is the whole of the market in England. This is just England, not the whole of the UK, right? But it is the whole of the market. So that's 669, nearest down at 670,000 properties make up these prices, okay? And we are just preparing and making it possible for you to add your own exchange price so that we can launch the country's first exchange price index that will actually blow all these others out of the water and give us very recent actually traded house prices. So thank you, Stephen. And you're right. Fix housing, fix everything. Okay, what else do we have? I'm going to wrap it up soon. Christopher Smith asks a question. And again, yet again, I want to just repeat something I said earlier in the video. There's no such thing as an accurate valuation. There is no such thing as an accurate valuation, because whoever is valuing the house, whether they are just an estate agent plucking it out of their arse, or whether they are a qualified chartered valuer, they are still making an educated guess on what somebody will pay. That is all you're getting. Even when you pay for a red book valuation, it is an educated guess on what someone might pay for that house. And if you could see and hear these chartered valuers walking in and out of estate agents' offices going, I've got to value this. I've no idea what to put this. What have you sold that's like it? Oh, okay, right. Yeah. That's it. That's it. And they do get to go in. They do get to tell whether it stinks of dogs and pets inside, or whatever it might be. So they do get to apply that real world assessment of the condition of a house and the condition of the properties next door and all those kind of things that AI doesn't do. So they are likely to be in a smaller ballpark than the online valuations. But there is no such thing as an accurate valuation. It is nothing more than an educated guess at what somebody will pay. That's it. And I think this is the root cause of the problem. Because sellers, homeowners, and estate agents are all operating under the misapprehension that a house has a value. We can't define it, but it's a value. I mean, I know what my house is worth. No, you don't. You just don't. And an agent goes, well, we know what it's worth. No, you're guessing. And they know they're guessing. Nobody knows what now, in a very busy, liquid market, where there are very large numbers of the same property selling all the time, and I have agents who are clients like this, they can get quite close in normal times. So there are certain exceptions where, in the last 3 months, you've got 20 very similar properties that all sold within a few £1,000s of each other. Okay, there's a very liquid market if for a property that's exactly the same as that. But as Richard Donald from Zoopla said, when you've got a low volume of quite varied properties, it's incredibly difficult, basically impossible. Excuse me. No, I wish that were the case. The reviewer says, you say buy but don't overpay, but you can't overpay if you're mortgaged, as the lender will refuse to lend. Now, who knows why that is wrong? That's an incorrect assumption. Because a lender will lend you money on a new build house and they'll lend you 95% of it, even though they know you will not be able to sell the house in the next few years. And you will have overpaid. Do not operate under the misapprehension that your lender's valuer will save you from overpaying. That's just not true. Sometimes they will, but just not true. Guys, I have to go. I'm afraid I've got a hard stop this evening. I would love to keep going, especially as there are lots more of you now. Yeah, I'm going to call it there. Please remember, thank you to those of you who signed up for the newsletter, every Friday newsletter, and I sometimes put other stuff out there as well. If you haven't joined, please do join my newsletter, mhwc.co.uk/newsletter. It makes sure that you get stuff first, especially 5 Fact Friday. Thank you to all those who are. And if you do get it, by the way, please recommend it to your friends, forward it to people. People who you know are moving, always helps. In the meantime, if you're new here, go and look up my videos, the 10 golden rules for buying and the 10 golden rules for selling. Charlie's 10 golden rules, and you'll find those 2 videos. Just search for that and watch those if you're new here. That's where I've got the most condensed amount of advice, whether you're buying or selling. In the meantime, have a lovely evening. Thank you very much, guys. If you aren't subscribed and you've enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate if you did subscribe. That always helps. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys. Have a good one.